Our top story now, poll strategist Prashant Kishor held discussions with Congress leaders Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi of Vadra, reportedly on something bigger than upcoming state polls and with the 2024 national election in sight. According to sources, the meeting was not about Punjab or Uttar Pradesh polls as was being speculated, but about something bigger, an indication that Prashant Kishor might be looking at a significant role in getting the Congress battle ready for the 2024 Lok Sabha polls. Earlier spoke to Srinivasan Jain for more details.
This is big breaking news that we have coming in. It appears that the meeting between political strategist Prashant Kishor and the Gandhis was not just between Rahul and Priyanka Gandhi, the siblings, but all three Gandhis. Rahul and Priyanka were present in person. Sonia Gandhi joined via a link. So it was a meeting between all three Gandhis and Prashant Kishor, which is itself quite unprecedented. What we've learned is that this meeting had nothing to do with either Punjab, the Congress Punjab crisis, or Uttar Pradesh elections as some were speculating. This is a meeting about, and I'm quoting here from highly reliable sources conversant with exactly what has been happening, something bigger. Something bigger is the language that was used to describe what this meeting was, from which we can infer that this is something to do not just with the assembly elections, but clearly with an eye towards the 2024 Lok Sabha polls. Also, I was told that this is not the first time that Prashant Kishor has met with the Gandhis, indicating once again that this is not something that has just happened overnight. This is something that has been in gestation unbeknownst, by the way, to most of the media. Until today's meeting, the media had no idea that several meetings had already taken place in the course of the past month between Prashant Kishor and the Gandhis, either all three of them or several of them in some combination or the other. This does seem to indicate that there appears to be the possibility that Prashant Kishor, who has managed to be a transformative figure for several of these state assembly elections and for regional parties and leaders, is he now going to link up to India's grand old party, India's faltering opposition party, which, as many have pointed out, doesn't simply appear to be in any position to challenge the BJP for 2024 elections. Now it appears with these meetings and with the possibility that we are told that this is about something bigger, that chance of a PK Congress tie-up seems to be looming closer. But of course, will it still work out? Will all the final dots and T's and all of that be joined, and what final shape it takes? All of this is still very much up in the air. Prashant Kishor had already made it clear that there's no possibility of a third front to take on the BJP in 2024, as some were speculating, that any such attempt requires the Congress to be on board. And now that he has been having these meetings and there's the talk of something bigger, as I mentioned, could it be that we see PK Congress coming together? That's the big political development.
And let's take a look at political developments in Maharashtra. And after alleging that Chief Minister Thackeray and Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar were keeping an eye on him, Congress Maharashtra President Nana Patole took a U-turn. He said his statements were being misinterpreted and he did not mean anything. In fact, put it on the BJP, saying the opposition is trying to create differences within the MVA partners.
The Congress's loose cannon in Maharashtra avoids the media as he walks into a Congress meeting at Tilak Bhavan in Mumbai's Dadar area on a Tuesday morning. Earlier, Nana Patole, state Congress chief, walked back from his latest googly in which he had claimed that he was being surveilled by his own alliance government in Maharashtra.
मुख्यमंत्री आणि उपमुख्यमंत्री माझ्यावर लक्ष ठेवतात अशा पद्धतीचं त्याला चढवून आपण जे दाखवलेलं होतं. आमचं महाविकास आघाडी सरकारचं एकमत आहे. आम्ही राज्याच्या विकासासाठी आमचं धोरण आहे. 3 दिवसाच्या पहिले या भाषणाचं काही या संबंधात नव्हता तरी त्याचा क्लिप काढून दाखवण्याचा जो प्रयत्न झालेला आहे याचा काही संबंध येत नाही.
This latest clarification from Patole came after many senior Congress leaders reportedly conveyed their disapproval of his statements. On camera though, they tried to present a united front, blaming the BJP.
कोई ऐसा ये नहीं है, ये सब जो है अभी ये हमारा जो आंदोलन चल रहा है महंगाई के अगेंस्ट, उसको दबाने के लिए ज़्यादा ये बीजेपी वाले ही वो प्रयास कर रहे हैं.
तीनों पार्टीज गवर्नमेंट में एक साथ है, पर हमारी स्ट्रेंथ, हमारी ताकत हर पार्टी अब अपने तौर पर बढ़ाने के लिए कोई आपत्ति किसी को भी नहीं होनी चाहिए, उनको भी नहीं है.
But there is little doubt that the repeated barbs by Patole and import from the BJP are only straining the Congress's alliance partners, even leading, some say, to overtures between the Sena and the BJP.
ये प्रिंसिपल अपोजिशन पार्टी है कांग्रेस, उनका प्रभाव अगर बढ़ेगा तो बीजेपी का प्रभाव घटेगा। नाना पटोले जी का मॉडल कौन सा है प्रभाव बढ़ाने का, वो मॉडल को थोड़ा रिसर्च करना पड़ेगा।
Amid all of this, AICC Maharashtra in charge H.K. Patil and cabinet ministers Balasaheb Thorat and Ashok Chavan met NCP chief Sharad Pawar at his residence. It has now become a habit where Patole makes a statement which he later backtracks and the party tries to cover it up. But in all of this, there is a risk that he might hurt the alliance partners, in turn hurting the Mahavikas Aghadi government. In Mumbai with camera person Praveen Ji Rohit, this is Purva Chitnis for NDTV.
Now let's get you the latest COVID news. And amid the possible third wave of COVID and increasing our number of coronavirus has only given rise to the fresh worries about the pandemic. Now R, or the reproduction number of a virus, tells us how easily it's spreading. It is the average number of people to whom an infected person will pass on the virus. The higher the number, the more contagious it is. And currently we're seeing the fastest rise in the reproduction factor since mid-February, from a low of 0.72 to 0.95 in just 31 days. It was the 14th of February, in fact, when the R number was this high at 0.95, and quite clearly cases were on the way up. The key difference, though, in mid-February, the average daily cases were around 12,000, while today it's around 41,000, which is a big concern. But the good news is the average daily cases continue to decline since the second wave peak. Now, Arunachal Pradesh on Tuesday reported its highest single-day spike of 566 new cases. Remember, several states in the northeast are a big worry with surging cases. The earliest single-day record was 497 cases, which was on the 29th of May. The new cases were detected after testing 6,140 samples. The positivity rate stood at 9.21%. Andhra Pradesh also recorded 2 fatalities, taking the total number of deaths to 191. Now, the Uttarakhand government has cancelled this year's Kanwar Yatra due to the COVID pandemic. The decision taken by Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami's government came amid concerns raised over the risk by such events in triggering the possible third wave. UP, however, has allowed the Kanwar Yatra with restrictions. Chief Minister Dhami told the media, people's lives are our primary concern. We can't play around with that. Even the gods will not want people to die.
हमने पिछले काफ़ी दिनों से बहुत इसमें एक्सरसाइज की, उच्च अधिकारियों से भी बात की और पड़ोसी राज्यों के अधिकारियों की भी आपस में वार्ता हुई। इन सब का निष्कर्ष निकला कि हम ऐसे समय में, जबकि कोरोना महामारी और हमारे यहाँ पर अभी वेरिएंट एक वहाँ पर छतरपुर में पाया गया, तो हरिद्वार को हम जो है एक कोरोना महामारी का केंद्र नहीं बनाना चाहते हैं। लोगों का जीवन हमारे लिए प्राथमिकता है, हम उससे बिल्कुल भी खिलवाड़ नहीं कर सकते, उसका हम कोई कोताही नहीं बरतेंगे। देखिए, इससे पहले आप लोगों ने देखा होगा कई बार ऐसी स्थितियां आई हैं, इसलिए हम लोगों ने निर्णय लिया है, हमारी सरकार ने निर्णय लिया है कि हम यात्रा नहीं करेंगे।
Now, the decision to cancel the Kanwar Yatra came after Prime Minister Narendra Modi had warned against overcrowding at tourist sites and called for faster vaccinations against COVID, even as official figures indicated a slower spread of the infections. The Prime Minister called for vigilance against new variants of the virus and a faster campaign to get the population protected. He also held a meeting with all the chief ministers of the northeast states.
With these pictures in mind, a warning from the Prime Minister.
हिल स्टेशन में, मार्केट्स में बिना मास्क पहने, बिना प्रोटोकॉल का अमल किए बिना भारी भीड़ का उमड़ना, मैं समझता हूं एक चिंता का विषय है, ये ठीक नहीं है। ये बात लोगों को समझाना जरूरी है कि तीसरी लहर अपने आप नहीं आएगी।
हेडलाइन में आप लोगों के सामने प्रस्तुत करना चाहूंगा, जिसमें ये कोट किया गया कि हम 2 साल से घर में थे, तो वो हमारे लिए जेल के समान थी। जब हम थर्ड वेव की बात करते हैं, तो हम थर्ड वेव को मौसम के समाचार की तरह से हम उसकी गंभीरता और उससे संबंधित अपनी रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी को शायद जिस स्थाई पर समझने की जरूरत है, वहां पर कुछ चूक हो रही है।
In fact, the Prime Minister met the Chief Ministers of the northeastern states, which have most of India's districts with a 10% plus positivity rate. Parts of northeast India are still under COVID curfew with some relaxations. But a few pockets are in total lockdown, like Assam's Jorhat and its neighbouring Golaghat, due to a rising number of cases.
We are imposing complete lockdown. That means we are closing down the grocery shops, the vegetable vendors shops also.
The Prime Minister will also virtually interact with Chief Ministers of Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Kerala, Odisha and Maharashtra on 16th July at 11 am to discuss the COVID situation in these states. These 6 states, along with Assam, contribute to 85% of the daily average cases. With Ratnadeep Chaudhary in Guwahati, in New Delhi, with camera person Manu Nair, this is Sukirti Dwivedi for NDTV.
In fact, if we take a look at the cases that India has reported, interestingly, on Tuesday, the US and UK reported more daily cases than us. United Kingdom reported 34,810 cases, while the United States reported 32,904 cases, and India reported 31,443. But if we take a look at the vaccination rates and the proportion of the population vaccinated, then we're trailing this, of course, given our huge population. The UK has vaccinated 51.4% of its population, the US 47.6%, while India has vaccinated only 5.3% of the population. Vaccine shortage, in fact, is a huge crisis right now, with several states complaining of vaccine shortages.
The impact of the vaccine shortage. Several vaccination centers shut in the country's capital today. In Kolkata, one center with some vaccine supply was bursting at the seams.
Delhi has completely run out of its stock of Covishield. It does have some stock of Covaxin left. We are now standing outside a vaccination center in Saket. This is a Delhi government school that functions usually as a vaccination center, but currently it is being shut because there are no doses here. Now that has forced people who are turning up, beneficiaries who wanted to get vaccinated over here, returning empty-handed.
काम से छुट्टी लेकर आना पड़ता है, फिर रिटर्न जाएं, डेली की डेली छुट्टी देती नहीं कंपनी कोई, परेशानी तो है ही, क्या करें। कल मालविया डंगर भी गए थे, वहाँ भी बोला कल आना, वहाँ भी नहीं मिले।
Vaccines, the only defense against the virus, are in such short supply. The jab for all adults by December is an empty boast by the centre. Congress's P. Chidambaram tweeted. Even BJP-friendly Orissa is going dry. It got 3 lakh doses Monday and could open only 97 vaccine centres today, say sources. Erratic supplies meant instead of 1.5 lakh jabs a day, Delhi gave 36,000 on Monday.
तो वैक्सीन की कमी है। वैक्सीन जैसे ही मिलेगा हम लगा देंगे। हमने पहले कहा कि हमारे पास कैपेबिलिटी है 3 लाख 4 लाख भी रोज लगा सकते हैं। खूब लगाने को तैयार है, मिल जाए तो हमें तो जब भी मिल रही है, आप देख रहे हैं बार-बार बंद करना पड़ रहा है।
The shortage of vaccine leading to such chaotic scenes that you see behind me. Men, women coming in search of vaccines to this center at Kalighat in the heart of Kolkata because they aren't getting vaccines where they are.
पिकनिक गार्डन में कहीं कोई वैक्सीनेशन सेंटर नहीं है, इसीलिए लास्ट में कोई ऑप्शन नहीं है ना, क्या करें अब, लास्ट में आना पड़ रहा है, 6 बजे से लगे हुए हैं, क्या करें।
This center got 400 doses today, others less. So over 1,000 vaccine seekers showed up here from distant places, even the districts.
দক্ষিণ চব্বিশ পরগনার ভিতর থেকে পেরিফেরি থেকে সুন্দরবনের কাছ থেকে লোক এখানে ভ্যাকসিন নিতে চলে আসে, তো সেক্ষেত্রে সবাইকে করা পসিবল হয় না।
In most states, priority is giving the second dose to 45 plus, but the vaccine shortage is leaving younger vaccine seekers angry and vulnerable to the virus. With Sukirti Dwivedi, Monideepa Banerjee, NDTV.
Now, the Tamil Nadu Chief Minister has written to the Prime Minister on the imbalance in vaccine allocation. He writes, Tamil Nadu was given only 302 doses per 1,000 eligible citizens. Gujarat got 533 doses. Karnataka got 496 doses per 1,000 eligible citizens, while Rajasthan got 446. Welcome back. Online food delivery platform Zomato is set to launch its initial public offering today. The IPO, one of India's biggest this year, will be available for subscription till Friday. That's the 16th. The price band of Zomato IPO is fixed between 72 rupees to 76 per share of the face value of 1 rupee each, and the company aims to raise 9,375 crore through the offer. The IPO comprises fresh issue of equity shares worth 9,000 crore and offer of sales worth 375 crore by existing investor InfoEdge, which is the parent company of Naukri.com, according to information in the prospectus. Incorporated in 2008 and backed by China's Ant Group, Zomato is among the most prominent startups in the country today. Now, in a terrible case in the national capital, a 16-year-old girl who was attacked with an axe on her face, allegedly by her neighbor in Delhi's South Campus area, succumbed to injuries in a Delhi hospital where she had been admitted with severe injuries. The police caught the 21-year-old attacker from Palwal, where he was hiding after he fled the crime scene.
कल दोपहर 1:30 बजे हमको पीसीआर कॉल रिसीव हुई थी थाना साउथ कैंपस क्षेत्र में कि एक लड़की की हत्या कर दी गई है। एक लड़की थी जिसके सर पे एक लड़के ने कुल्हाड़ी से वार किया था और उस लड़की को हॉस्पिटल में भर्ती कर दिया गया था, सफदरजंग हॉस्पिटल में। आज दुर्भाग्य हमारा ये है कि उसकी मृत्यु हो गई है। बहरहाल कहानी इसमें ये निकल के सामने आई थी कि जो लड़का है इसको काफ़ी टाइम से जानता था, एक तरह से स्टॉक कर रहा था। ऑफेंस करने के बाद ये लड़का अपनी बहन के यहाँ भाग गया था पलवल में, तो इसको वहीं से पकड़ के लाया गया है।
Well, an absolutely tragic case there. Well, with that, time for us to slip into a short break. More news on the other side. Welcome back. Well, it's time now to take a look at the weather and the progress of the monsoon. Let's go across to Divya. And Divya, tell us about the monsoon. Also, temperatures have come down.
Absolutely, Gargi. Thanks to the way it rained yesterday, temperatures are down. Let's take into account the kind of temperatures we're seeing. Sri Ganganagar is, in fact, we're seeing, as far as Sri Nagar is concerned, 24.4 degrees Celsius. Sri Ganganagar at 37.8 degrees, that's 1 degree below the mark. The temperature here was way above the 40-degree mark. As far as Delhi is concerned, the temperature is down by 5 degrees at 30.9. Amritsar at 33.5 degrees Celsius. But however, there's still a huge deficit to fill, even though monsoon has covered the entire country now. Let's take into account the deficit still stands at 65% in the national capital, 78% in Ladakh, 63% in Manipur, and Chandigarh here having a 42% deficit. The deficit stands at even as far as Daman and Diu is concerned, no change seen there at 41%, Gujarat almost 40%, Haryana a little under 40%, and then we have Kerala where the deficit stands at 37%. Now, let's take into account monsoon's performance, and here you can see it's not just those areas, but Jammu and Kashmir, Punjab, Chandigarh, Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, eastern part of Rajasthan, Gujarat, Saurashtra and Kutch, as well as the coastal belt of Karnataka going into Kerala, as well as Odisha, along with Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram and Tripura. All these places in the red is where monsoon has been deficit as far as the season is concerned, in Lakshadweep as well. Let's take into account how monsoon has fared over the different regions, and here in the north, the deficit has come down slightly from yesterday, and of course in the eastern part there's no change. However, in central parts of the country, 7% is the shortfall at the moment. In the southern part is where monsoon has been normal. In fact, it's been surplus, but the country deficit stands at 6%. Now, as far as the coming 24 hours are concerned, a rain red alert for parts of Konkan and Goa, as well as Madhya Maharashtra. Very heavy showers expected along the west coast. So, and also the winds are going to be very, very strong. strong. So a fisherman warning to stay away from the coastline, whether it's Konkan, Goa, Maharashtra, as well as parts of Karnataka and Kerala. Heavy showers expected, especially in Uttarakhand over the next 4 to 5 days. Also, as far as Himachal Pradesh is concerned, we can expect heavy showers today and then heavy showers again on the weekend starting Friday. So tomorrow there might be a slight break as far as Himachal Pradesh monsoon is concerned. But then we also have parts of Gujarat where heavy to very heavy showers are expected, along with Telangana, as well as we can expect parts of the interiors of Karnataka where showers will be heavy in the coming 24 hours. So monsoon is now picking up over most parts of the country, and as far as the deficit is concerned, that continues to be at 6%. So Gargi, we are hoping that by the weekend, that's all set to change. Gargi?
All right, Divya, thanks so much for joining us there with the latest. Now, the monsoon finally did arrive in Delhi yesterday. It was late by a month, and that's led to a shortfall in not enough water supply for Delhi residents, sparking water wars between Delhi and Haryana, even as Delhiites continue their struggle for water tankers.
Delhi roads flooded after Tuesday morning's heavy rain. Ironically, the city does not have enough water supply for its residents. 34-year-old Renu has been waiting for a water tanker in Delhi's Deoli for the last 5 hours. It's been the same situation for the last 15 days, with her needing to buy water from private tankers.
बारिश का पानी टब में बाल्टी में बारिश का पानी कर करके लोगों ने टॉयलेट बाथरूम ये सब गए हैं।
हर रोज पानी जो आप टैंकर से खरीदती हैं वो कितने रुपए का पड़ता है आपको?
हाँ, 1000 रुपए का आता है हमारा। 15 दिन चले 10 दिन चले ऐसे चलता है।
रोज का 100 रुपए पानी का खर्च होता है।
हम बच्चों की फीस नहीं भर पाते, लेकिन पानी हमें लेना पड़ेगा, हमारी मजबूरी है।
The Delhi government blames the Haryana government for the water shortage as it did not release Yamuna river water.
केजरीवाल ने झूठ बोलने की पीएचडी कर रखी है हरियाणा के ऊपर, बेबुनियाद आरोप लगा रहे हैं।
All the water treatment plants in Delhi are working at less than half their capacity. Wazirabad barrage should have water levels up to 674.5 feet. It is reduced to 667 feet. Only 55 mgd water treatment is happening in Chandraval water treatment plant instead of 90 mgd. The same process is reduced from 20 mgd to 12 mgd in the Okhla plant.
मैं आपको बता दूं 16,000 क्यूसेक पानी हथनी कुंड पे हरियाणा सरकार ने छोड़ दिया है और अब वो अगले 3 से 4 दिन में दिल्ली पहुंच जाएगा।
On Tuesday, the Haryana government released Yamuna water, and the hope is that Delhi's water problem will be solved when 16,000 cusecs of water reach the capital. The Delhi government has approached the Supreme Court on the matter.
The crisis is same in maximum areas of Delhi. In fact, few posh localities are not getting water. These are the real pictures. As of now, in the fight of Delhi and Haryana, the common man of capital is struggling. In New Delhi, with Sashikant Jha, Saurabh Shukla for NDTV.
Now look at the impact COVID and lockdowns have had on the common man when it comes to household budgets. Because of the loss of income and jobs in many cases, nearly 16,000 students have shifted to Chennai Corporation schools in the last few weeks from private schools. That's already 8% more than last year.
Banu is shifting all her 3 children to a government school run by Chennai Corporation. She had lost her job at a hospital amid the pandemic, and the single parent could no longer afford the 1.5 lakh rupees fee charged by the private school. Here it costs just 50 rupees a year.
For 3 months last cooking போய் தான் என் பசங்களுக்கு வந்துட்டு ஃபுட் வீட்டோட ரெண்ட் எல்லாமே நான் மேனேஜ் பண்ணிட்டு இருந்தேன் நான் என்ன வேலைனாலும் ஓகே அப்படின்ற அளவுக்கு
Divya, a tailor, says she and her husband have been without a job and could not pay outstanding fees to the private school her son attended till class 5.
CM sir வந்து இந்த மாதிரி டிசி இல்லனாலும் பரவாயில்லை நாங்க அட்மிஷன் போட்டுக்கிறோம் கவர்மெண்ட் ஸ்கூல்ல சொன்னதால நாங்க டைரக்ட்டா இங்க வந்துட்டோம்.
Nearly 16,000 students have shifted to Chennai Corporation schools in the last few weeks. That's already 8% more than last year. Authorities say the shift is not a climb down for students from private schools.
for the kind of infrastructure and teacher quality that we have, I think we will be able to do justice to their decision.
2019-20, our higher secondary result is 99.5. Among 240 students attend.
Perhaps for the first time in decades, middle classes are looking at government schools for their children's education, economically hit hard by the pandemic. While Chennai Corporation schools may be an exception, pressure is mounting on the Tamil Nadu government to improve standards of education in government schools, particularly in rural areas. In Chennai with Suresh, Sam Daniel, for NDTV.
And it's not just students being shifted from private schools to government schools because of shrinking budgets. COVID exigencies are forcing the most vulnerable to part with their gold, a last resort measure, as the value of gold for Indian families is often seen as more than just money.
Just a week since Suresh started selling tea once again after nearly 6 months. A second consecutive year of having no income for half the year forced the 54-year-old to pawn his wife's gold jewellery, her only chain and earrings, as a last resort. He is not sure he will be able to buy the gold back anytime soon.
ലോക്ക്ഡൗൺ സമയത്ത് നമ്മൾ കട നടത്താൻ പറ്റാതെ വളരെ ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടിലായിരുന്നു. അപ്പോൾ ഇപ്പോൾ കോവിഡ് വന്ന് രണ്ടാമതും ലോക്ക്ഡൗണായി നമുക്ക് കട നടത്താൻ പറ്റാതെ തുടങ്ങാനായിട്ട് ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടായിരുന്ന സമയത്ത് കൊണ്ടുവന്ന ഉരുപ്പടികളെല്ലാം പണയം വെച്ച് 13% ഉരുപ്പടികൾ ബാങ്കിൽ പണയം വെച്ചാണ് നമ്മൾ കട തുടങ്ങിയത്. അപ്പോൾ അസുഖങ്ങൾ കൂടി വരുന്നു, ഇനി അടച്ചിടുവോ ഇല്ലേ എന്നുള്ളൊരു പേടിയിലാണ് ഇപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ ഇരിക്കുന്നത്.
The COVID pandemic has taken away jobs and earning, pushing an estimated 33 million Indians, that is 1/3 of India's middle class, into poverty or even bankruptcy. Many have had to sell gold to survive. According to a report in the Bloomberg, Manappuram Finance Limited, one of India's biggest gold loan providers, auctioned over 4 billion rupees worth of gold in the 3 months through March, as against 80 million rupees worth gold auctioned in the prior 9-month period.
We are here in Port Bazaar in Secunderabad, where people come in to liquidate their gold because of the crisis brought on by lockdown and also the loss of jobs. South India, in fact, has the largest single per capita consumption of gold, and yet the sale of old gold has gone up by 25%. India also imports one of the largest amounts, and even that has dropped drastically because old gold is getting recycled.
This COVID-19 has been taken people's wealth to run their own show with the medical treatment and all. The gold has been fallen, and recycled gold has come out for the wedding season.
According to the World Gold Council, gold sales fell to the lowest in 2020. COVID exigencies are forcing the most vulnerable to part with the precious yellow metal, whose worth is often seen as more than just money. With inputs from Mumbai, camera person SP Babu in Thiruvananthapuram, in Hyderabad with camera person Nagraju, Uma Sudhir, NDTV.
Now, breaking news coming in from Jammu, where another drone was observed last night by the BSF about 100 to 150 meters inside Indian territory at a village Sai located along the international border in Arnia sector of this district. Well, let's go across to Neeta for more on this. Neeta, give us the details.
Yes, Gargi, this is a sixth sighting of a drone after Indian Air Force base was attacked last month. This is the sixth sighting. In fact, there's the highest level of alert along the international border, also along line of control also. But here, another drone was observed by the BSF about 100 to 150 meters inside Indian territory. There's a place called Sai which is located along the international border or in Aranya sector. The BSF, is on the highest alert. They observed a drone. So at about 9:45 p.m., 9:52 p.m. to be exact, as per the BSF version, at a height of 200 meters on its own side. That is 200 inside the Indian territory. So the alert troops fired. from their position towards a red blinking light, due to which it returned back. The area is still being searched. We spoke to the Jammu Kashmir police also and the senior officers from the border security force also. They say nothing has been found so far, but the search operations are still continuing. Gargi?
All right. And Neeta, of course, this alert regarding drones after that attack that took place in Jammu.
Absolutely. You know, both our army and both are the border guarding forces, including all kind of, you know, forces which are operating there in Jammu and Kashmir, are on the highest level of alert. In fact, you know, last week there was a meeting also, which was a follow-up meeting of which was earlier chaired by the Union Home Minister, Mr. Amit Shah. Last week, the Director General of Police was here in Delhi. He gave a detailed presentation about drones also. In fact, our National Security Guard and Army are, you know, checking the drone, counter-drone equipments also, as to how to counter this strategy, which now Pakistan has come up with. Our sources are telling us that for Pakistan, drones have now become new watchtowers to spy on Indian territory also. Gargi?
All right, Neeta, thanks so much for joining us with that breaking news. So a drone spotted in Jammu. Now, a week after the death of Father Stan Swami, a question is, what will happen to his legacy? His supporters and associates are now working overtime to ensure that his work that touched so many lives of tribals and under trials is taken forward.
A week after the death of Father Stan Swami, a haunting silence hangs over the campus of Bagecha, the organization the Jesuit priest founded and nurtured over the last few decades. His room was opened up after months and his belongings dusted and cleaned.
डिसरप्शन नहीं बोलेंगे, हम लोगों के लिए मोटिवेशन है, विशेष करके बगीचा के जो बगीचा से जुड़े हुए रहने वालों को और स्टैन के कोलीग जो जेजुइट्स हैं.
Are you scared also?
No, we are not scared. Stan's death has released our fear, you see.
Comrades in arms like Dayamani Parla feels his death has given the movements he started a new lease of life. Christian missionaries of all denominations are coming together to take Father Stan's work forward, notably his campaign to free under trials languishing in jails for years.
We are working with the Jesuit. Bagacha, which was founded by Father Stan Swami, will continue being the voice of the voiceless in spite of all the intimidation.
सब सच्ची श्रद्धांजलि हम लोग मानते हैं जब हम जल जंगल जमीन और यहाँ के खनिज संपदा की सुरक्षा के लिए, पर्यावरण की सुरक्षा के लिए हम लोग अंतिम दम तक लड़ेंगे.
Father Stan Swami's passing has blunted hostility from all quarters, including the Jharkhand government, say his associates, which has brought relief and strengthened their resolve to keep his legacy alive. With camera person Haribansh Rai, Manish Kumar and Joshua Chin for NDTV.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Good Morning India. I'm Gargi Rao with our top story. News coming in that another drone was observed last night or spotted last night by the BSF about 100 to 150 meters inside Indian territory. This was at a village called Sai, which is located along the international border in Arnyad sector of this particular district. But it returned after the security personnel opened fire. Well, let's go across to Neeta for more details on this. Neeta, tell us what we know so far.
Gargi, this is the 6th drone sighting since the day, Indian Air Force base was attacked by the intruders last month. Now, in fact, the NIA sources are indicating that in that attack also the state actors might be involved. As far as the investigations are concerned, now it has been confirmed that RDX was used to bomb Indian Air Force base that was last month. After that attack, Gargi, the entire Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir went on an alert, and that is why on international border and also on line of control and even line of actual control, a highest bit of alert has been maintained. As far as this incident is concerned, the Border Security Force officially is saying that on intervening night on 13th and 14th, a blinking red light was observed by troops in Arnia sector at about 9:52 p.m. That is last night. Inside Indian territory, 200 meters inside Indian territory, the BSF alert forces, fired at that red blinking light. It went back. Now, what is being said, that either that drone was used as a watchtower, because now the drones are new watchtowers for Pakistan to spy inside Indian territory, or maybe it was, bringing in something else also, because drones have also been used for smuggling drugs also, and also pushing, weapons and arms and ammunition also. So that area is now being searched by the troops, by the security forces, which also includes Jammu and Kashmir police. The police says that so far nothing has been found as of now. Gargi?
All right, Anita. So, a whole new challenge for our security forces. Thanks so much for joining us with the latest there. Now, the big political story, poll strategist Prashant Kishor held discussions yesterday with Congress leaders Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi Vadra, reportedly on something bigger than the upcoming state polls and with the 2024 national election in sight. Well, let's go across to NDTV Srinivas and Jain for more details on this. And Vasu, initially, everyone thought the meeting was about, Punjab polls or Punjab issue or the UP polls. But tell us what you know, and this was not the first meeting of its kind?
That's what, Gargi, this has turned out to be quite a big political story because, as you mentioned, when the first news came that Prashant Kishor had gone to meet Rahul Gandhi, it appeared that this was connected to the Punjab crisis because, remember, he's also special advisor to Punjab Chief Minister Amrinder Singh. Subsequently, though, not only Rahul and Priyanka Gandhi Vadra were present at the meeting, Sonia Gandhi joined virtually. So it was a meeting with the entire Gandhi family, which, as the sources close to developments told us, is something much bigger than the state polls, whether it's in Punjab or whether it's in Uttar Pradesh. What is emerging from this? The fact that it is being signaled as something bigger, the fact that, as you mentioned, we've learned that this is not the first such meeting that Prashant Kishor has had with the Gandhi family. In fact, there have been several meetings which have gone under the media radar, indicate that perhaps we could see some kind of alignment between the Congress, between the Gandhi Party and Prashant Kishor. Will Prashant Kishor be playing a bigger role in basically steering the Congress campaign in 2024? That is what the indications are from this meeting. Because so far, Prashant Kishor, after his experience with the Congress in 2017 in the UP Assembly elections, has been very bitter about India's grand old party, saying it's rudderless, it does not know how to take decisions. But obviously, there is something going on now between him and the Congress, which has interested him enough to have these detailed discussions. The sources are telling us that both sides are trying to have out some kind of an arrangement. They seem to be in the final stages. So we'll have to wait and see what emerges. But if it indeed sees an alignment of the Congress and Prashant Kishor, then we might actually see India's main opposition party, which has been politically adrift, perhaps trying to get its act together. We'll have to wait and see.
Right, and Vasu, this is very interesting because it follows, what happened a few weeks ago when we saw Prashant Kishor meeting yet again with Sharad Pawar, and then there was another meeting called with Sharad Pawar and other parties, and all that talk of a third front, which then Prashant Kishor very clearly denied. He's like, there's no chance of a third front, and that experience has not really, produced much in India. So indications that he was thinking of something with including the Congress.
That's right, Gandhi. That time, Prashant Kishor was making it clear that without the Congress, you can't really take on the BJP. So all these ideas of third and front won't work. Perhaps from that, or maybe even parallel to that, was that then the only option is for Prashant Kishor to align himself with the Congress, because that is the main force that can fight the BJP nationally of the country at this stage. And so there is a kind of synergy between what we saw with Prashant Kishor making those statements while meeting Pawar and nerve with his talks with the Congress. So we'll have to, again, as I said, caveat this with a lot of ifs and buts, because politics is an uncertain business. Again, as I said, that if we do see the Congress tying up with Prashant Kishor, if Prashant Kishor is given a wider role in the Congress, we don't know exactly what, then that could certainly make the run-up to the 2024 election very interesting.
All right, Vasu, thanks so much for joining us with those details. And now developments in Maharashtra, and after alleging that Chief Minister Thackeray and Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar were keeping an eye on him, Congress Maharashtra President Nana Patole then took a U-turn, saying that his statements had been misinterpreted and he did not mean anything. In fact, he put it on the BJP, saying the opposition was trying to create differences within the MVA partners. Take a look.
The Congress's loose cannon in Maharashtra avoids the media as he walks into a Congress meeting at Tilak Bhavan in Mumbai's Dadar area on a Tuesday morning. Earlier, Nana Patole, state Congress chief, walked back from his latest googly in which he had claimed that he was being surveilled by his own alliance government in Maharashtra.
मुख्यमंत्री आणि उपमुख्यमंत्री माझ्यावर लक्ष ठेवतात अशा पद्धतीचं त्याला चढवून आपण जे दाखवलेलं होतं. आमचं महाविकास आघाडी सरकारचं एकमत आहे. आम्ही राज्याच्या विकासाचं जे आमचं धोरण आहे 3 दिवसाच्या पहिले ज्या भाषणाचं काही या संबंधात नव्हता तरी त्याचा क्लिप काढून दाखवण्याचा जो प्रयत्न झालेला आहे याचा काही संबंध येत नाही.
This latest clarification from Patole came after many senior Congress leaders reportedly conveyed their disapproval of his statements. On camera though, they tried to present a united front, blaming the BJP.
कोई ऐसा ये नहीं है, ये सब जो है अभी ये हमारा जो आंदोलन चल रहा है महंगाई के अगेंस्ट, उसको दबाने के लिए ज़्यादा ये बीजेपी वाले वो प्रयास कर रहे हैं.
तीनों पार्टीज गवर्नमेंट में एक साथ है, पर हमारी स्ट्रेंथ, हमारी ताकत हर पार्टी अब अपने तौर पर बढ़ाने के लिए कोई आपत्ति किसी को भी नहीं होनी चाहिए, उनको भी नहीं है.
But there is little doubt that the repeated barbs by Patole and import from the BJP are only straining the Congress's alliance partners, even leading, some say, to overtures between the Sena and the BJP.
ये प्रिंसिपल अपोजिशन पार्टी है कांग्रेस, उनका प्रभाव अगर बढ़ेगा तो बीजेपी का प्रभाव घटेगा. नाना पटोले जी का मॉडल कौन सा है प्रभाव बढ़ाने का, वो मॉडल को थोड़ा रिसर्च करना पड़ेगा.
Amid all of this, AICC Maharashtra in charge H.K. Patil and cabinet ministers Balasaheb Thorat and Ashok Chavan met NCP chief Sharad Pawar at his residence. It has now become a habit where Patole makes a statement which he later backtracks and the party tries to cover it up. But in all of this, there is a risk that he might hurt the alliance partners, in turn hurting the Mahavikas Aghadi government. In Mumbai with camera person Praveen Ji Rohit, this is Purva Chitnis for NDTV.
Now let's get you all the COVID news amid the possible third wave. An increasing R factor of coronavirus, or R number, has only given rise to fresh worries about the pandemic. Now the R, or reproduction number of a virus, tells us how easily it spreads in the population. It's the average number of people who an infected person passes on the virus to. Now the higher the number, the more contagious it is, and currently we're seeing the fastest rise in the reproduction factor since mid-February, from a low of 0.72 to 0.95 in just 31 days, and it was on the 14th of February, in fact, when the R number was this high at 0.95, and quite clearly cases were on the way up. Now the key difference since then is in mid-Feb, the average daily cases were around 12,000, while today they're 41,000, which is a big cause of worry. But the only silver lining in all of this is that the average daily cases are continuing to decline since the second wave peak. Now, on the day that the Prime Minister held a meeting with chief ministers of northeast states because of the COVID surge there, Arunachal Pradesh on Tuesday reported its highest single-day spike of 566 COVID cases. The earlier single-day record was 497 on the 29th of May. The new cases were detected after testing 6,140 samples. The positivity rate is at 9.21%, and Arunachal Pradesh also recorded 2 fatalities, taking the total number of deaths to 191. Now, Uttarakhand has cancelled this year's Kanwar Yatra due to the COVID pandemic. The decision by Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami's government came amid concerns raised over the risk posed by such events in triggering a possible third wave of the pandemic. UP, however, has allowed the Yatra with restrictions. Chief Minister Dhami told the media that people's lives are our primary concern. We can't play around with that. Even the gods will not want people to die.
हमने पिछले काफ़ी दिनों से बहुत इसमें एक्सरसाइज की, उच्च अधिकारियों से ही बात की और पड़ोसी राज्यों के अधिकारियों की भी आपस में वार्ता हुई। इन सब का निष्कर्ष निकला कि हम ऐसे समय में जबकि कोरोना महामारी और हमारे यहाँ पर अभी वेरिएंट एक वहाँ पर छतरपुर में पाया गया, तो हरिद्वार को हम जो है एक कोरोना महामारी का केंद्र नहीं बनाना चाहते हैं। लोगों का जीवन हमारे लिए प्राथमिकता है, हम उससे बिल्कुल भी खिलवाड़ नहीं कर सकते, उसका हम कोई कोताही नहीं बरतेंगे। देखिए, इससे पहले आप लोगों ने देखा होगा कई बार ऐसी स्थितियां आई हैं, इसलिए हम लोगों ने निर्णय लिया है, हमारी सरकार ने निर्णय लिया है कि हम यात्रा नहीं करेंगे।
Now, interestingly, on Tuesday, the United States and the United Kingdom reported more daily cases than India. The UK reported 34,810, while the US reported 32,904. India reported 31,443. But if we take a look at vaccination rates, we're trailing given our huge population. The UK has vaccinated 51.4% of its population, the US 47.6%, while currently India has vaccinated only 5.3% of the population. So vaccine shortage is a huge crisis right now, with several states complaining that they're running out of doses.
The impact of the vaccine shortage. Several vaccination centers shut in the country's capital today. In Kolkata, one center with some vaccine supply was bursting at the seams.
Delhi has completely run out of its stock of Covishield. It does have some stock of Covaxin left. We are now standing outside a vaccination center in Saket. This is a Delhi government school that functions usually as a vaccination center, but currently it is been shut because there are no doses here. Now that has forced people who are turning up, beneficiaries who wanted to get vaccinated over here, returning empty-handed.
काम से छुट्टी लेकर आना पड़ता है, फिर रिटर्न जाएं, डेली की डेली छुट्टी देती नहीं कंपनी कोई, परेशानी तो है ही, क्या करें। कल मलबिया डंगर भी गए थे, वहाँ भी बोला कल आना, वहाँ भी नहीं मिले।
Vaccines, the only defense against the virus, are in such short supply. The jab for all adults by December is an empty boast by the centre. Congress's P. Chidambaram tweeted. Even BJP-friendly Orissa is going dry. It got 3 lakh doses Monday and could open only 97 vaccine centers today, say sources. Erratic supplies meant instead of 1.5 lakh jabs a day, Delhi gave 36,000 on Monday.
तो वैक्सीन की कमी है, वैक्सीन जैसे ही मिलेगी हम लगा देंगे। हमने पहले कहा कि हमारे पास कैपेबिलिटी है 3 लाख 4 लाख भी रोज लगा सकते हैं, खूब लगाने को तैयार है, मिल जाए तो हमें तो जब भी मिल रही है, आप देख रहे हैं बार बार बंद करना पड़ रहा है।
The shortage of vaccine leading to such chaotic scenes that you see behind me. Men, women coming in search of vaccines to this center at Kalighat in the heart of Kolkata, because they aren't getting vaccines where they are.
पिकनिक गार्डन में कहीं कोई वैक्सीनेशन सेंटर नहीं है, इसीलिए लास्ट में कोई ऑप्शन नहीं है ना, क्या करें अब, लास्ट में आना पड़ रहा है, 6 बजे से लगे हुए हैं, क्या करें।
This center got 400 doses today, others less. So over 1,000 vaccine seekers showed up here from distant places, even the districts.
দক্ষিণ চব্বিশ পরগনার ভিতর থেকে পেরিফেরি থেকে সুন্দরবনের কাছ থেকে লোক এখানে ভ্যাকসিন নিতে চলে আসে, তো সেক্ষেত্রে সবাইকে করা পসিবল হয় না।
In most states, priority is giving the second dose to 45 plus, but the vaccine shortage is leaving younger vaccine seekers angry and vulnerable to the virus. With Sukirti Dwivedi, Monideepa Banerjee, NDTV.
And Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu has written to the Prime Minister about the vaccine shortages. An imbalance in vaccine allocation is what he said. He said that Tamil Nadu is given only 302 doses per 1,000 eligible people. However, Gujarat got 533 doses per 1,000 citizens. Karnataka got 496 and Rajasthan got 446. And Jharkhand Chief Minister has also said the state was completely dependent on the centre for its vaccine doses and vaccination was a cause of concern.
वैक्सीन की स्थिति तो कहा जाए कि चिंता का तो विषय है। अब इस पे राज्य सरकार के हाथ से तो बिल्कुल हर चीज कोई भी कंट्रोल में तो है नहीं। ये केंद्र सरकार के ही भरोसे हमें भी इंतजार करना पड़ता है और बिल्कुल बूंद बूंद करके ना आप जियो ना आप मरो वाली स्थिति है। अब इसके बीच में अब तीसरी लहर की बात आ रही है। कई जगह अब तेजी से बढ़ोतरी भी दिखने को मिल रहा है। पता नहीं क्या होगा, वैक्सीन लगाने के बाद भी वैक्सीन का क्या औचित्य रह जाएगा, समझ से परे।
For that, time for us to slip into a short break. On the other side, we'll get you details of Zomato's IPO. Welcome back. Online food delivery platform Zomato is all set to launch its initial public offering today. It will be available for subscription till Friday, and the price band of Zomato is fixed at around 76 rupees per share for the face value of 1 rupee each. And the company aims to raise 9,375 crore through the offer. Let's go across to Purva for more. And Purva, this is one of the biggest IPOs of the year.
Yes, absolutely, and also one of the first food tech company to go public right now. And if we talk about Zomato, then it has been around. Like Zomato has in fact helped a lot of people during the pandemic, so it's a good time for them to come out with their IPO. Because if we talk about some highlights of Zomato, then Zomato has in fact around over 3 lakh active restaurants, from which it has listings, and then 15 lakh plus Zomato Pro members are there. And it in fact the model is such that that it's a food tech company, then it's going public for the first time, then it has competitions from Swiggy, and that's its main competition. So the analysts right now are not really very they are not very confidently going ahead and saying what can be the next growth trajectory for Zomato, because remember, Zomato has not really gotten into profit per se. It has a good revenue, but in fact last year it had registered about 23% year-on-year revenue loss it had. So the analysts right now do not exactly are not predicting what the growth trajectory is going to be, but definitely they are excited that Zomato is coming out with its IPO. It's the first food tech company which is going to come out with its IPO, and as you said, the IPO will the listing will be open for 3 days until 16th of July. So the retail investors, if they want, they can get into this IPO, and once this IPO is listed, about 2 weeks from there, that's when the IPO listing will go public into the secondary market, which is the exchanges. It will be listed both on the Bombay Stock Exchange as well as the NSE. That will be 2 weeks later, but right now, yes, it's the first food tech company. It's a really big IPO which is coming out. It's 9,000 plus crore of the 9,000 plus crore is what Zomato is expecting to raise through this IPO. So we'll just have to see how it goes, what in these 3 days, whether it will be oversubscribed or undersubscribed. That is something we'll have to see.
All right, Purva, thanks so much for joining us with all those details. With that, time for us to slip into a short break. More news on the other side. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar is in Tajikistan for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Foreign Ministers meet, and information coming in that he will be meeting with the Chinese Foreign Minister. Let's go across to Kadambani for more on this. Kadambani, what are the details?
Well, Gargi, our sources are telling us that as both the ministers, EM Jaishankar and Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi are in Dushanbe for this SCO meeting, there is in all likelihood a meeting which is supposed to take place, a bilateral meeting between Jaishankar and Wang Yi. And as you know, that disengagement has not been completed. So this is being looked at as an important meeting. So our sources are telling us that this meeting is quite likely. You would remember that last time both the ministers were face-to-face was again in Moscow in September 2020. Again, that was an event, SCO event, and on the sidelines they had met and reached a 5-point consensus about the disengagement. They had also spoken on phone in February and April, but the disengagement has not been completed, though the disengagement is completed in Pangangso area, but the other friction points are still as they were and have not gone back to pre-April 2020 position. So this is one meeting which, if it takes place, and there's all likelihood that it might take place, that will be quite important, because that consensus, that 5-point consensus of Moscow meeting has not been completed, and Jaishankar would be raising this point. India has been sending clear messages and speaking again and again about this disengagement, which should be completed as soon as possible. Every time there's a statement, India says that this disengagement needs to be done as soon as possible. But we have seen Chinese Foreign Ministry giving statements blaming India for this incursion and this standoff between the armies. So let's see if there's finally a meeting on the sidelines of SCO in Dushanbe today between the two foreign ministers, and what comes out of it. Gargi.
All right, so a very significant meeting they're planned on the sidelines of the SCO. Thanks so much, Kadamni, for joining us with that. And it's time now for our campaign, Vaccinate India, in partnership with Google, where we talk about questions that a lot of you have about the vaccines, about COVID, and questions that you often look up online. And joining us to answer that is Dr. Padmanabha Shenoy, rheumatologist and immunologist, Kochi. Thank you so much for joining us. And one of the questions that people often look up is, should mothers who are currently suffering from COVID, should they breastfeed?
Yeah, they can breastfeed. There is no contra. That's always an issue, because people think that whether COVID will get transmitted through breast milk. It will never get transmitted. You can definitely feed. The problem is, for example, somebody who is 3 months old or 4 months old, feeding is extremely important, rather than so that the child get nourished. At the same time, he has to move on with his health. Problem is whether the mother will transmit the disease to the child. There's definitely a small chance. But as you know, the transmission of COVID happens 2 days or 3 days before the symptom onset. So if the transmission has to happen, it must have happened between the mother and the child. And the child, usually 99.999%, the chance that the child will become sick out of COVID is very, very rare. So definitely breastfeeding can be continued at that time.
Right, and doctor, is there any sort of measures the mothers need to take? Always ensure they double mask when they're when they're feeding the child. Anything like that you would recommend?
Yeah, that's what. So the problem with Delta, we should be realistic in all trying to prevent the transmission from one person to other. So the data across the world shows that the Delta variant, the transmission between the family members is almost 100%. Very rarely you find a family where one person is infected and others are saved. Out of 1, 2 or 3 families can get lucky by that means. So wearing a double mask is extremely important. If the mother was somewhere else and the contact between the mother and the child has been less over the 3 days before the infection, definitely the chance that the child can get the infection during the pre-infection period is less. So that time, definitely the mother can wear a double mask, and more importantly, open the windows. That is extremely important. Open the windows, ensure that there is enough ventilation in the room. The key word in this transmission is wearing a double mask, and second thing, as I told you, ensuring adequate ventilation. I think ventilation is much, much more important, because if mother will be isolated in one room, before the child is brought to that room, always open the windows for 5 or 10 minutes, because even if whatever virus is there in the air, get cleared off with the ventilation. So ventilation is the key word, and second most important thing is wearing a double mask and cleaning the hands with the sanitizer.
Right. So some, steps you can take to ensure at least if the child does get infected, it's not a very heavy viral load. Another question that people look up is, will you test positive for antibodies after the COVID vaccination?
Never. Antibodies or antigen?
Antibodies.
Yes, antibodies has to be there. So a lot of people ask me the other question, after getting vaccinated, can your PCR turn positive? It will never turn positive. Let us be very clear about it. You will never become COVID positive after getting vaccinated, but vaccination produces antibodies. That's how it works. So if you have COVID, who have taken COVID vaccine, especially you have taken AstraZeneca or Pfizer, your anti-spike antibodies will start rising within 7 days, and after the second dose, after 14 days, it will peak. So antibodies has to be produced. If your antibodies are negative, especially the anti-spike antibodies are negative after vaccination, you have to be a bit careful. We should know something bit more about antibodies, because people are going on checking antibodies. One thing is it produces anti-spike antibodies, what we should look for. And there are different kits. There are standardized kits, non-standardized kits. Always check with a standardized kit for RBD domain, receptor binding domain for anti-spike antibody. That is the antibody you should be checking after 1 month of second dose. If the levels are high enough, definitely it gives some amount of protection. But if it is negative, don't need to worry. Your T cell would have started acting at that time, which is not checked usually by antibodies. And another kind of antibody is anti-nucleocapsid antibody. Usually this nucleocapsid antibody is positive only after infection. It is not raised following vaccination, except in Covaxin. Covaxin increases nucleocapsid and spike antibodies. So if somebody wants to check an antibody for protection, the best antibody will be anti-spike RBD. So read out between the lines, below the reports it will be written which antibody is being checked, anti-spike RBD. So if you check that antibody, definitely if the levels are quite high, you can be assured that there is some amount of protection you have got and your vaccine has worked.
Right. Dr. Kishor, I just want you to quickly answer whether people should get their antibodies tested after the vaccinations.
It is too early to say whether everybody has to get checked their antibodies, but I think there is some data, very early data, especially from UK, which is coming up telling that if you have after vaccination, those who have generated very high antibodies, they will have longer lasting protection. At our center also, we are doing a study looking at whether the antibody level positivity predicts protection. In India, what the data shows is 15 to 20% of the people who have taken these vaccines do not mount antibody, especially in those patients who are taking immunomodulators. This is the data from our center. Maybe under 2 months down the line, we will have some more answers on this.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Kishor, for joining us. All right. Well, let's now take a look at the weather and the monsoon. Let's go across to Divya. And Divya, how's the monsoon performing?
Well, Gargi, monsoons cover the entire country as of yesterday, and we're expecting showers in most parts of the country, and that in turn has brought down the temperatures, especially in the northern part of the country, where the temperatures were touching over 40 degrees in certain areas, especially in Sri Ganganagar, where the temperature has dropped down to 37.8 degrees. Delhi is now at 30.9 degrees, and that's 5 degrees below the norm. In Srinagar also, the temperature has come down by 5 degrees from the norm. So is the situation as far as Dehradun is concerned, down by 4 degrees. And of course, even in Amritsar, the temperature is cooling off. So as far as the monsoon situation is concerned, like Gargi, you were asking, there still is a huge deficit to fill. From 67%, the deficit is now down to about 65% in the last 24 hours because of the way it rained in Delhi yesterday. Ladakh, no change in the situation. We also see a huge deficit in Manipur as well as in Chandigarh. As far as Daman and Diu, no change there as well, 41%, 39% as far as Gujarat is concerned, almost 40% in Haryana and in Kerala. Let's take it in as far as monsoon performance is concerned over the season so far, and we can see that all the areas marked in the red, these are the areas of concern where monsoon needs to pick up. As far as the month of July is concerned, it's not as promising as the month of August and September as far as the way it's going to be raining in the national capital. That huge deficit that we were talking about of 65%, that will be huge to fill in a span of 15 days. Let's take into account the monsoon distribution. The country deficit stands at 6%. In the north, the situation improved from yesterday. It's still concerning, though. It's coming in at 15%, 8% in the east, 7% deficit in central parts of the country. It's only in the southern part of the country where it seems to be raining nice and proper. Now, let's take into account there's a rain red alert for Konkan and Goa. Very heavy showers expected over this area as well as Madhya Maharashtra. People need to watch out. A word of caution for the people here. Adjoining areas as well. So it's going to be Gujarat where heavy showers as well as parts of coastal Karnataka as well as the interiors of Karnataka. So this, in fact, along the west coast, very strong winds are expected. So fishermen warning, people are advised not to venture into the sea. We're expecting heavy showers in the northern part of the country. When we talk about Himachal Pradesh, heavy showers today and then heavy showers again from Friday. In Uttarakhand, heavy showers expected from now for about 5 days. The situation will be such even in parts of Uttar Pradesh where heavy showers are expected till about the 17th. That's the latest on the weather. Gargi, back to you.
Thanks so much for that, Divya. Now, COVID exigencies are leading to desperate measures, forcing the most vulnerable to part with their gold, often a last resort, as the value of gold for Indian families is seen as more than just money.
Just a week since Suresh started selling tea once again after nearly 6 months. A second consecutive year of having no income for half the year forced the 54-year-old to pawn his wife's gold jewellery, her only chain and earrings as a last resort. He is not sure he will be able to buy the gold back anytime soon.
Lockdown സമയത്ത് നമ്മൾ കട നടത്താൻ പറ്റാതെ വളരെ ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടിലായിരുന്നു. ഇപ്പോൾ കോവിഡ് വന്ന് രണ്ടാമതും ലോക്ക്ഡൗൺ ആയി നമുക്ക് കട നടത്താൻ പറ്റാതെ തുടങ്ങാനായിട്ട് ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടായിരുന്ന സമയത്ത് കൊണ്ടുവന്ന ഉരുപ്പടികളെല്ലാം പണയം വെച്ച് 13% ഉരുപ്പടികൾ ബാങ്കിൽ പണയം വെച്ചാണ് നമ്മൾ കട തുടങ്ങിയത്. അസുഖങ്ങൾ കൂടി വരുന്നു, ഇനി അടച്ചിടുവോ ഇല്ലേ എന്നുള്ളൊരു പേടിയിലാണ് ഇപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ ഇരിക്കുന്നത്.
The COVID pandemic has taken away jobs and earning, pushing an estimated 33 million Indians, that is 1/3 of India's middle class, into poverty or even bankruptcy. Many have had to sell gold to survive. According to a report in the Bloomberg, Manappuram Finance Limited, one of India's biggest gold loan providers, auctioned over 4 billion rupees worth of gold in the 3 months through March, as against 80 million rupees worth gold auctioned in the prior 9-month period.
We are here in Port Bazaar in Secunderabad, where people come in to liquidate their gold because of the crisis brought on by lockdown and also the loss of jobs. South India, in fact, has the largest single per capita consumption of gold, and yet the sale of old gold has gone up by 25%. India also imports one of the largest amounts, and even that has dropped drastically because old gold is getting recycled.
This COVID-19 has been taken people's wealth to run their own show with the medical treatment and all. The gold has been fallen and recycled gold has come out for the wedding season.
According to the World Gold Council, gold sales fell to the lowest in 2020. COVID exigencies are forcing the most vulnerable to part with the precious yellow metal, whose worth is often seen as more than just money. With inputs from Mumbai, camera person SP Babu in Thiruvananthapuram, in Hyderabad with camera person Nagraju, Uma Sudhir, NDTV.
Now, a tragic case from Delhi. A 16-year-old girl died after being attacked with an axe by a man who'd been stalking her for months. The police arrested the 21-year-old accused on Tuesday. Praveen was arrested from his sister's house in Palwal in Haryana, where he had fled after hacking the class 11 student. Now, Praveen, who was unemployed, had been stalking the girl for a month and upset at being pestered. She had told her father, who worked as a watchman. He then beat up Praveen, which enraged the young man further, and he decided to then kill her.
कल दोपहर 1:30 बजे हमको पीसीआर कॉल रिसीव हुई थी थाना साउथ कैंपस क्षेत्र में कि एक लड़की की हत्या कर दी गई है। एक लड़की थी जिसके सर पे एक लड़के ने कुल्हाड़ी से वार किया था और उस लड़की को हॉस्पिटल में भर्ती कर दिया गया था, सफदरजंग हॉस्पिटल में। आज दुर्भाग्य हमारा ये है कि उसकी मृत्यु हो गई है। बहरहाल कहानी इसमें ये निकल के सामने आई थी कि जो लड़का है इसको काफ़ी टाइम से जानता था, एक तरह से स्टॉक कर रहा था। ऑफेंस करने के बाद ये लड़का अपनी बहन के यहाँ भाग गया था पलवल में, तो इसको वहीं से पकड़ के लाया गया है।
Time for us to slip into a short break.